Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Karim, for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to join you today. It's also a pleasure to meet Ms. Rola and Ms. Adir. Thank you very much. And I hope that maybe after this, we also get an opportunity to meet and get to know each other more. I think with your question, there's quite a few things that you mentioned in the question. And maybe if you don't mind, Dr. Karim يصورنا. Do you need to pose for this picture? Okay. So I think maybe I'll break down that question into a couple of sections. And maybe I'll start with the current situation that we're in. So maybe I'll address the COVID situation first, and then we can talk about agility in a more broader concept. So within GE, there were three things that we focused on. When the COVID situation erupted, and basically the three things that we followed to address the crises was: one, embracing reality; two, redefining winning. So basically, what does winning mean to us today? And then three was to focus on execution. So if I break those a little bit further, on the point on embracing reality, is actually accepting the situation that we're in and adapting to the situation. And that entails a couple of things. First and foremost was ensuring the safety and well-being of our employees. So that basically, everything related to making sure that whoever needed to be tested was tested on time, to make sure that the health of our employees and the safety of our employees and their families was being addressed and being attended to. It also meant that how can we ensure the safe return of our employees? A lot of our employees were stuck outside of the country, in several areas. And they were stuck for months. How did we ensure their safety, and how could we help in expediting the process to bring them back home? The second was around maintaining business operations with the least disruptions. And within GE, as you may be aware, that meant fulfilling all necessary scheduled power outages and project execution schedules. So these are, big power projects that we are operating with, specific schedules. And we had to ensure that we continue to, or do our utmost to meet those project schedules with the least disruptions. It also meant understanding the regulations that are happening, the government regulations, and also the processes and procedures that were put in place by the GE as a global organization. And how do we work between both of those? In the healthcare sector, that meant working with the frontline healthcare providers to help operate and service GE's healthcare equipment. And then obviously in terms of day-to-day operations, that meant guaranteeing working from home seamlessly. And then the second point that I mentioned there was redefining winning, right? So understanding here, how has COVID impacted... Sorry. حد دخل على الخط معنا. So on redefining winning, that basically meant understanding our customers' needs. So in the past, how long has it been now? 5-8 months, how have our customers' ambitions or goals have changed? For example, in the UAE, there is an acceleration around the digitization of the government services. Maybe more around the private and public PPPs, working together in projects. So how could we help in accelerating such PPP arrangements, and also understanding what our customers' needs are around working remotely, improving operational performance, managing field service engineers remotely. And then the last point that I would like to mention here is around focusing on execution. And this is something that, it is a trait and something that is very much instilled within the GE culture, which is being laser focused on prioritization and driving results.
Yeah, Dr.
So,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please continue.
No, I was just going to ask you if you maybe I'd pause there, and if you want me to.
Because this is a great answer, because basically you're taking us through the way you thought about putting your priorities out there in this crisis, be it from the medical point of view, from the safety of your employees, and then understanding your business well, and then reacting right away and quickly to be able to develop the right response. I will take from that side of the conversation, or from that end of the conversation, to Ms. Abir. Ms. Abir, thinking of priorities, right, and understanding what the business wants and needs. You have taken on this role, this new leadership role in those times. Can you also take us through your journey? How did you manage? What kind of priorities did you focus on? Dr. Dalia spoke of the business needs, the human needs. How did you go through with that, and how did you manage to put your priorities and move ahead with the leadership role that you're in? You're on mute. No, you're still on mute. I think it's like at the bottom. Yes, you're good. You're good.
All right. Well, firstly, thank you all very much for this opportunity to join the esteemed panelists, Dr. Dalia and Soda, and thank you, Dr. Karim, for the introduction. I think that the word agility here is the key word in this conversation about COVID-19. One of the things that we immediately recognized from the very beginning, I think as many other business leaders did, is that the more agile you are with your workforce, with your regulations, with your reaction, the more efficient you could be, and the more helpful you could be. So it wasn't a time to stick to hard and fast rules. It was a time to see where we could be flexible, what we could move, what we could change. As Dr. Dalia pointed out, there was different priorities based on the requirements. Firstly, of course, the health and safety, and then secondly, meeting deadlines, productivity, and of course, the very real threat, the very real experience of having supply chains completely fall apart. I think that was the biggest thing that affected manufacturing. With regards to my specific leadership role, I think I was appointed CEO maybe in December, but as full disclosure, this is a family business, and so therefore I have been working very closely with the chairman and with previous CEOs for many years now. So there was nothing, the transition into a CEO, and it's an acting CEO role, it wasn't anything that was like, stop one position and start the next position the next day. It was very kind of fluid, and it was more about an external title than anything in terms of what I was doing internally. And so, all of the team knew me, the suppliers knew me, the clients knew me. It wasn't anything that was a shock to the system. We started very early with almost a SWAT team sort of get together with the managers. Hey guys, prepare yourself because this is what's happening. And we started as early as January implementing no handshaking, masks, things like that. Our supply chain was hit in early February because our industry heavily relies on Italian manufacturers and suppliers. So very early on, we had to rearrange the way that we work. And we're very, actually quite proud in the company of being able to rethink our manufacturing process. At the end of the day, we viewed it as an opportunity. This is our chance to say, okay, we've been hit with a major disruption. Let's flip it. Let's say, how can we take this major disruption and we use it to our advantage? So let's learn about doing virtual handovers. We're already in our business, not in the center of the business. Our business is all in Europe, right? Every other yacht manufacturer is in Europe. We're the only one here in the Middle East. So we did 2 virtual handovers, and we delivered 2 yachts during the pandemic, which is a major feat, actually. We rearranged the way that we work so that we're working alongside So it's not in the same process that we used. We've changed our product lines to suit what people are looking for. So I think agility, again, it's just a major keyword here. And I think that's what you have to do as a leader. You have to always remain flexible, always look at the bigger picture and the smaller picture. And the last thing also that you have to think about as a leader, what differentiates being here in the Middle East is that, 90% or more of your workforce is not home. So you have to be their home. And a situation like this where everybody is scared, it's not enough to say this is just the workplace.
Yeah, so it's the human factor that is very important, especially in those days. Agility, like one very important part of agility that you mentioned, Ms. Abir, was the swift response, the swift business response. Ms. Rula, also, like we know, manufacturing, like Dr. Dalia and Sabir just pointed out, of course, they were like hugely disrupted by the COVID-19, but also banking did suffer from disruption. I don't like the word suffer because it's changes, right? And we will see the changes that will happen to the sectors, to the sector, specifically banking, which we might have like a couple of very good ones actually. Question to you: how did you manage to still run the banking operations while taking care of the safety of employees, while being very alert of the COVID situation, infections, death, etc. We know that this is like you sit on or you work in a very stressful and demanding sector. And we are seeing the top leaders from banking sectors complaining today, worldwide, I'm talking, about the huge disruption, the huge, cost that they're having to pay because of those disruptions. So how do you still put operations first while having the back of your mind and, of course, like the priority of being safe and being, of having your employees all together and all doing fine?
Thank you, Lian. And I would first like to start by thanking Dr. Karim for inviting me to attend today's event. It's really an honor for us, for me personally, and for Standard Chartered Bank. Lian, if I would start, I said that the pandemic really forced us to push the boundaries, what it means to work flexibly and collectively. And this I can speak for my colleagues in the bank. So we've proven over since March to today that we can really develop and deliver the highest standards for our clients while still working virtually. But our enforced absence from office has also highlighted that the huge benefits that we as a bank would miss when not meeting face-to-face with our clients, and the value of having meetings in physical workspaces as hubs of teamwork, collaboration, and learning. So that's we did miss as a bank as well. Now, if you ask me how the future will be like, I'd say it will be a hybrid approach. So for us, the way we look at it, it's combining virtual and office space. And this is where this whole thing kicks in. Because we move everybody home. 95% of our staff in March moved home, as well while having a 5% handling basically we call them as our heroes because they were handling the operation. Now we had to make sure that these staff are in a safe place. All the preventive measures are in place. At the same time, making sure that the 90% at home are also motivated, taking care of those at home, making sure that they're not worried, they're not scared. So all these angles, the well-being of staff was very important. But as a bank, I can tell you, for us, this helped us kick in the future because we will be, a percentage will be working from home. A small percentage of the staff in the future may work permanently in office, while some may wish to be permanently at home. But the large percentage will be working in office few days and at home few days, as in between.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
So it's really at the end of the day, this whole period, what we wanted to make sure that there is no disruption from our customer perspective. So making sure most of our customers are on digital platforms, which for the UAE, 30% of our customers are on digital platforms. A large number of our corporate customers as well are on digital platforms. Those that were not on digital, we moved them to digital platforms, so their operation was not impacted. We also made sure that we kept in regular touch with our clients, so no customer service issues arising, so to make sure that there's continuity in the business. But it takes resilience and agility. And these are the two things that were very important for us as a bank to make sure that the staff are resilient and agile.
Nice, and this is the probably the direction that we're seeing with all big corporations. I mean, some are on the extreme of either working from home, everyone like working remotely, or going back to the office. Dr. Dalia, what do you think of this, the hybrid model that Hezbollah was talking about? Because also the way where you sit, you have different sectors, right? So you have healthcare, you have manufacturing, you have aviation, you have, you cannot maybe, you do not have like a one solution fits all. How are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about it in terms of priority? So what are the businesses that are mostly needed now? So how can we, shift our management approach in healthcare, let's say, because it is one of the most demanded, sectors in terms of services. Can you tell us a bit about how you're thinking about this situation?
I think, maybe what I'd like to highlight here is the importance of, for us, for example, because what we focus on is addressing our customers' needs. What we focus on is making sure that we bring the right solution to the problem statement of our customers. So identifying what the problem is and what is it that GE can do to address that problem. And obviously with COVID, there were, depending on which industry you're in, there's obviously a problem around, movement, your day-to-day operation of business. So, for us, the question is, what does that mean to the power sector? What does that mean to the healthcare sector? And what does that mean to the aviation sector? And then this obviously goes back to your point around agility. But what's also important is that you continue to always be close to your customer. And that's one of the key things that I'd like to highlight here for any organization to succeed. You have to ensure that really at the core of everything you do is around staying close to your customer and understanding their needs and addressing their issues or their problems. So it may mean different things to different customers. For example, let's talk about the power sector. There's a lot of agility required in remote operations, for example. The ability to be able to, the things that field engineers would typically or traditionally do, can we then shift those services and operations in a more remote or a more virtual way? And what are the digital capabilities that are required to do that? Now, luckily that in GE, we've already been working on this for the past, I would say 5 to 7 years. Everything that has been discussed in the global arena around the fourth industrial revolution, which many of you may already be aware of, but it's basically marrying the hardware with the software and the ability to enhance the operations of all of the hardware that we have deployed and installed within the country. How can we use, let's say, sensors that are already deployed in these hardware, how can we then use that data to help us operate in a more efficient way? Because efficiency also is a very important aspect to all of our customers at the moment. Everyone is focused day in and day out on how to optimize the use of their resources and how to be more efficient with not only with their assets but also with their employees. Optimizing the work schedules of their employees. So, and GE has done a lot in that area. So luckily, and this is going back to the point that Adir had mentioned as well, which is looking at the bright side or the opportunity in every challenge that you get. Because in every challenge, there is an opportunity for us to improve or to learn or to do things even better. So it kind of just fast-tracked, basically, everything that we have been talking already for the past many years with our customers. So it wasn't like we're bringing anything new. We're just speeding up that conversation. Of the operations of the power plants from one central location. We also have in the Dubai Airport Free Zone a digital technology center, which also allows us to have an overall view of the airline operations and how GE's basically equipment that are in across the aviation sector are performing, and how could we optimize the maintenance of these equipment. So
that's basically the important point, in as you were doing in the past couple of years, and we know because we work in the field and we hear about the research that GE has been doing around those sectors, about how it has been raising awareness also for all companies in those sectors to be ready for what is coming. And as you said, Dr. Dalia, it actually did come at a super fast track, but it's there. So it doesn't come to you as a huge surprise, but it just accelerated the process. But now let's move a bit to the personal level, because now we're talking about, and Dr. Dalia spoke about the business side and the business readiness. Now let's put our experts hat on the side and maybe bring in our leadership hats. This readiness, Dr. Dalia highlighted really well how to think about, for instance, putting the consumer first, demand, knowing how to research, what type of innovation to use when it comes to developing response. What about the personal level? So, what would you advise today students or young professionals who are basically going in, starting their career or maybe shifting their career, and seeing all those changes happen in the workforce? What kind of advice would you give them? And I think also the business layer that Dr. Dalia highlighted also would apply, but how would you think about it?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. One of the things that I've picked up, looking at different articles and looking at the job market today, I think one of the things that has been pressed even more than in the past are, STEM fields and things of the sort. But and on a personal note, I have a son who's graduating high school this year, and he's really struggling with this. What field do I study? What do I go into? And I said to him, look, nobody's first job is their last job, right? I mean, on average, people change their jobs something like 6 times throughout their lifetime. That's kind of an average. Some people go all the way up to 12 times. But one of the things that I do tell him, and I tell any student that comes to me for advice, and I apologize profusely to Dr. Karim and Mr. Abdullah for what I'm about to say.
Something about universities, probably.
It's great if you get a business, if you learn how to do business. It's great to study business, but I have 100 resumes of people with a business degree, and I'm a vertically integrated company. I do everything from source my employees through my own HR, through my own marketing, sales, design, manufacturing, engineering. I have everything. If you can do it, I have it. But if you come to me with a business resume and all you know how to do is I've studied business, in a company of 2,000 people, yes, we're not huge, 2,000 people, I may have 5 jobs where I need that. Now come to me and say that I have finance, accounting, design, marketing, an actual skill that you've studied, good, now we can talk. So tell students, don't study business. This generic business means as a business owner who is looking to hire a business degree with no specialty, it doesn't carry a lot of value for me. I want you to have a skill. I want you to have something that you can do. It's not just, I'm sorry, I apologize again to the university. It's the real world out here,
Yes, basically you're saying to stand out as a CV, so for your CV to stand out, you should be specialized in something. It is specialized. But I wanna ask this, Sula, also, if she agrees with this, the banking sector, for instance, is going through like massive disruptions, and like we have seen and we are seeing how fintech, for instance, is kind of taking a bigger role. Right? So how would you evaluate employees or young professionals trying to get into Standard Chartered, or in general, how would you advise them? Would a simple specialization in banking be stand out, or would you rather have a certain edge, be it in technology, be it in fintech? Do you agree with what Ms. Abir is saying, and how does it apply to your sector?
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, to be fair, I do agree with what Ms. Abir said, but the past few months basically were just a preview of the future. And so if we really want to address this, we have to look at and address the youth in the future, be it in college or workplace. We really need to analyze this period. So for them to remain competitive and in the future, the organizations now, what they're doing is they're looking at redesigning the structures and their approach to work and make use of the new technologies that we have. So we've redesigned business structures and processes with a new focus on talent must be looked at as a priority. Now, banking is really all about serving clients, and it is in the way that clients want to be served. And as we're transforming the way we are working by going more digital, we are rewiring our DNA that underpins how we think about banking. So, and just as how our customers are expecting the way they are served to change in the face of the technological innovation, similarly, our corporate clients are also being disrupted and they want to reinvent. So as we're experimenting with disruptive business models that create the optionality for the bank, and we're also investing in the worlds of fintech. And we would, the advice for students would be really to look at what now all industries need, which is more technology-driven, digital skills, organizational adaptability, and different kind of leadership. They need to be resilient and nimble because the world is changing around us. And the more we invest in technology, the more resilient we would be.
Yeah.
However, I would want to say that we will also this needs to be accompanied by a laser-focused strategy on soft skills, because you can't get away and say you don't need them in banking. At the end of the day, you need to balance the digital aspect and the soft skills. And that would be the challenge, in my opinion. And that's where the experts in the education industry would come in, really, because we will still need to have soft skills of the students in finance and in the aspects of banking.
Maybe it's a bit tricky for students. I want to Dr. Brenda, I think it's a a bit tricky for students to prove this agility. You laid it out perfectly earlier, Dr. Dalia, how you talk of it and how you respond to change, and how your response as a leader and as a company, as a team changes to respond to demand. But as Usura is saying, like when she is recruiting or when she's on the lookout for the employee that she wants to recruit or her team wants to recruit, they need to have something special, something that stands out. Yeah, going back to the theme of this discussion. What do you think? How do you think a student today or a young professional can prove their agility? How can they prove the soft skills Msula was just talking about, which are very important today? So let's say they are an expert in, like they're engineers, because at GE, for instance, we do use a lot of engineers. How would you differentiate? How would they stand out? How do you think about it?
Yeah, thank you. So I have quite a few thoughts around this area. So, look, I don't want to overwhelm students here. So we're talking about 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and I know that at that age it's very difficult to know what you want out of life, where you're heading, and what your goals could look like. So I want to maybe on Rula's point around soft skills, and I want to focus a little bit on that, because I think really it's the soft skills sometimes that differentiate people from each other. And what I would say is, maybe what I would like the students here who are listening to us this afternoon is to really, always self-reflect and understand what your strengths are. Okay, but understand that this is a journey. Understand that you don't need to have all the answers at this age. Right? No one is expecting you to have all the answers today. Understand that it's a journey, that you as a person will evolve, that with experience, you will come to understand yourself better. You'll understand your strengths better. So give yourself the time to experience that, to discover that, and give yourself the flexibility to try out different things. Because when you try out different things, you learn more about yourself. So be aware that it's a journey. And don't overwhelm yourself with having to perfect everything. Because at the end of the day, you will succeed as a team. No one succeeds on their own. So whichever great assets you have, think about you're going to complement those with someone else's great strength assets. And together, you become a strong team, and that's how you will succeed. So with that in mind, just be wary of what are my strengths? What am I good at? Because that's basically your competitive edge. That's what's going to make you stand out, amongst 100 people. What are your differentiators? Know what your strengths are and make them the best you can. Know what your development needs are, yes, but I don't think you need to worry too much about it, because I always say that, you can't be perfect in everything, but you can be the best at your certain strength, right? And at the end of the day, we all complement each other. So, and like any organization, all organizations win when they have a clear differentiator. When there's a gap and they're putting something forward that isn't there. So know what your strengths are, explore, experiment. It's a journey. It's all part of a process. Trial and error is going to create your character. Think about your character, and that's the most important thing when we talk about soft skills. Be someone who's humble, ready to learn, ready to fall but get up again. Be persistent, and just be honest. Be sincere with yourself. Be honest.
I really love those messages, because you're speaking of how to sharpen your competitive edge And even if it's at a younger age, I think it's super important. And I also think the message about teamwork and relying on teamwork, even from the start, and even when you're starting on your own, is a great message. Dr. Daria spoke about this competitive edge in the workforce. We have an interesting question also about standing out, because we have been talking about this for the past couple of minutes. From Muhammad Shakir, he's asking, I'm gonna direct this question to Ms. Habir. How can a student stand out in the pandemic while they're studying? I know that you are not in academics, but would you, as a leader, have any tips when it comes to focusing, when it comes to planning for what's ahead after university? Would you be able to help in this sense?
Well, firstly, I think following on what Dr. Dalia said, you have to focus on what your strengths are and to understand yourself better. You can't control the world around you, but you can control your reaction to it, and you can control what you do, you know. So I think firstly, create good habits. It's very easy when you are studying online to get into some quite kind of bad habits. Youth today, or just the general population, spends so much time online that sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to actually be productive. So I think having a very set schedule for yourself and being very disciplined in what you do is a good habit to get into, since we spend time online so much these days. And I think, so that's the first thing, is to be disciplined in organizing yourself and your time online. Secondly, I would think see what you're good at and see what you can offer the world. So maybe you have some suggestions. And I have had, you know, one of the first things we did during the pandemic at WhatsApp is that we created an email for proposals. Anybody across the company could send in a proposal, and we had a lot of things coming through where we said, hey, we're opening this up. Anybody wants to say something, anybody has an idea, anybody has seen something that they think we could improve, come forth and let us know. And you know, you involve people and you make them part of the process, and that really helps. And I think with students today, it's there's so much opportunity for them to share their experiences with their either, you know, community or with their university, and
to brainstorm with others and to make your ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a very important point. Nicola, we have a question for you, and also that is related to just what Ms. Habir was talking. She was talking about how at their company they're fostering, you know, hearing like everyone should believe, right? So the question from him, she's asking you, Ms. Kula, what do you do to keep your employees who are working at home or from home motivated? This is also like another $1 million question to all leaders today.
Yes, it's a very good question, actually, because this was a test for, I would say it's a test for leadership. It's how can you make sure that you keep your staff motivated and at the same time care about their well-being and at the same time productive, because this is very important. And for us, it is, as we go into also working from home in general as a bank, as part of our processes, given that we have the flexible working hours, we had to make sure that we regularly communicate. So what we did is, myself and the management team, as we moved to working from home, we had regular meetings. And the fact that we already have the Zooms of the world, so we would have our weekly meetings on Zoom, and that helps because it's not only video, not calls. At the same time, we would have communication regular. I would communicate weekly to the staff of the bank, giving them update about the pandemic. We give global updates. We also give country updates. So whatever the UAE would announce, we'd announce something very similar, very niche to Standard Chartered, reassuring them that we're taking care of them, their well-being, and motivating them. And in certain instances, I would give them how would my day be, because you need discipline to work from home. You need to be disciplined. So and this is what I would tell them, that you wake up, you exercise, you get ready, and you're at home but in office clothes and preparing for the day. So regular communication is very, very important. We did that. We also did, we would do once a month our what we call big calls. And these are big town halls where we would have them on calls or webinars. And this is where we encourage all staff to join and ask questions. At some point, we brought in speakers from
واحد يا
the
زلمه
digital
يا زلمه
world
هاك يا زلمه جنكس
to make
جنكس
it more
ما عليك
fun.
الجيم عن
We
جنكس
also
جنكس
have
هنا 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 هنا
a
هنا هنا
special, what we
تحمسها
call
حرام
like
عليك.
what
counseling,
the
or
hell
in
what
case
the
people that
hell
are alone, worried, they can talk confidentially. So we also, it was very important to reflect that empathy and human touch as an institution. So well-being was number one priority, and safety of the staff.
Yeah, those are like best practices that I think everyone can use, be it if they were an employee or if they also were looking for a job. A question I would address to Dr. Dalia, we have a question from Hashem, who is basically saying that with the current economic situation and with the economic outlook as well, things are not looking really great, and we have seen companies taking the decisions, the tough decisions to lay off employees. Does that mean that employees now and the workforce in general should always be ready to find a new job? Of course, this is very stressful on everyone, but do you think that we are in this situation where we always should be working on developing ourselves, so